Hi everyone, welcome to the Chronicles of Life with Chandra Colvin. Today we'll be talking about an interesting subject. We'll be talking about spirituality and parents, the connection between the parents and spirituality. Yes, it's a deep conversation. Yes, it is. And on the second half of the show, because I like to chop it in half and talk about a little here and a little there, we're going to talk about a wounded spirit. Yes, a wounded spirit. What it's like to be wounded from an intimate relationship. All right, so let's get started. One of the things that were brought to my attention and that I noticed was the supernatural connection that a parent have with a child and the importance of a parent being there for the children, the importance of a father being present in a child's life. And if he's not the right father, I suggest he get some help so he can become the best father. And if not the right mother, get some help so they can become the best mother. Because I realize a lot of times people grow up in homes where there was a lot of physical abuse, mental abuse, and they're transformed and cycled over from generation to generation because didn't nobody know better. For one, it started in slavery, where the slave master would say, well, we have to beat them into submission. So then the black man would have to whoop his wife and whoop his children, whoop them in submission. And then a lot of people use the Bible as a thing for being brutal and abusive. For its physical, saying you spat a rod, spoil a child. The rod of God is not a stick to beat nobody with. You have to look at the translation and the etymology of the word. When God talks about the rod, oftentimes he talks about a staff when he talks about a rod, a staff and a rod. But really, the rod can be used many ways. It could be the word of God, or it could be a literal staff or stick, rod, whatever you want to call it. But when God speaks of spat a rod, spoil a child, he's not talking about beat him to death. In Deuteronomy, it talks about, I don't know if it's in the 6th chapter, the 8th chapter, but it talks about where you sit in houses and you lay down in houses and you talk to your children. And you minister to them the word of God. And by you ministering this to them, you teaching them. You train up a child in the way you want them to go. Well, you don't train them by beating them. You train them by talking to them. By talking to them. You talk to them, you start at an early age. Unfortunately, some of us, by the time we learn this information, we had already raised our children old school. And a lot of you, no matter what I say, you still going to think old school the answer. But I'm here to let you know, old school ain't always the answer. It's not. What do history tell you about beating? Beating a child breaks the spirit of a child. Not only do it break the spirit of a child and make them cowardly, make them more of a coward. Yes, it can make them calm and timid. Matter of fact, it can make them too calm and too timid when they need to have some balls, as the old folks say, need to be brave or need to stand up and have a backbone. They won't have it because they've been beat. We need to learn how to discipline our children with conversation, information, and education. Well, Shane, how do we do that? We read our Bible for one thing and get the correct. And I ain't talking about what your preacher told you. I'm talking about you go get your Bible, you buy you a strong concordance, and you research the etymology of those words and how many definitions one word can have. And even though one word can have many definitions, how is that one word used at that particular time is being used? What is it referencing to? That's the first step. If we're going to use the Bible to raise our children, we need to know exactly what it means, where did it come from, and what What were they meaning when they did that? When they interpreted it that way? Or when the one that taught us that it was supposed to be meant that way? What do we mean? Well, we want to get to the place where we can talk to our children and educate our children. Like I say, because many of us come from homes where it wasn't information. Our parents weren't educated because of for different reasons. For different reasons on how you're supposed to raise a child. But I wanted to say this because this is the most important thing. The most important thing. Because children only remember what you teach them and what you tell them and what you do before. If you tell your child they're worthless all the time, they're going to feel worthless. If you call them itches, sluts, MFs, JDs, junkyard dogs, whatever you call them besides their given name, I pray that you saw God on that too, because names have meanings. They can determine the destiny of a child. If you don't believe me, research names. The power of a name. Yes, the power of a name. We're going to go into some deep stuff because, see, I'm feeling my help coming on. And all of my help comes from the Lord. When we discipline our children, we just need to take our time and explain things to them. We need to be more caring and more loving. We need to be educated on how we're going to do it. Well, call them by their name. Address them by their name. Address them the way you would want to be addressed. You respect them as an individual. I know that's your child. I know those are your children. But still, you have to give them the respect you want. Respect your children. They are individuals growing up in a cruel world. And if they can't find love and hope and strength at home, it's hard to find it abroad. Yes, there's a few good people. But finding them just like putting a needle in a haystack, like the old folks say. Like putting a needle in a haystack. Because most of the people, being an adult, most people know if they give you something they're good to you, there's something attached to it. What I got to do for you in return? What are you expecting from me? If it ain't nothing in the physical, it's something in the spiritual and in the mental. You want me to act like you want me to act. Do what you say do. And if it's in the physical, you want me to give you a little flesh in exchange. That's what the world has to offer. That's why we have to provide a comforting, loving environment for our children at home. We do. We really do. Love and protection start at home. A lot of times children don't feel protected in the home. It might be because of a biological parent that's violent, abusive, or whatever. I think you need to seek help on how to raise your children, especially if you come out of a violent home and abusive situation, because if you hadn't been raised to do that, you're going to do what's common to you. You need to seek help on how to raise your children. I'm not talking about, well, like some people say, what the white man say. I'm talking about what God says. And if you read God's word and you study it, like I said, you'll find out it's more important to sit down and talk to a child. Train a child verbally, not beat them in submission. Train them in submission. God ain't beat you in submission. His mercy been enduring and enduring and is still enduring because he promised to endure forever. Sometimes he whoop you, but he don't get the whoopings you deserve. And some people say God don't whoop you. Let me clear that phrase up when I say sometimes he'll whoop you. Sometimes God will stand back and allow you to do your own thing and let your own works whoop you. I'll put it to you like that. Your own doings whoop you. Your own doings. Because God stood back. He allowed you to do it your way when he was trying to give you another way. That was your whooping. All right, so we got that clear. That's discipline. We want to discipline our children in a way where they'll still know we love them. Yes, I understand that some people got some children that'll stand up in your face and flat-foot cuss you out. Why? The environment they come out of, the environment they've been introduced to, or either there's a form of mental illness somewhere. I'm going to say it again. The environment they come out of, the environment they've been introduced to, or either there's a form of mental illness somewhere. and all of which we can control. How, you say, Shan? The environment they in, being a mother and a father, but a lot of times the father ain't present, being a mother. You have to do what it takes to produce a loving environment. And if you know you need help with cussing and self-expression, if you know you lack the ability to show love because your parents didn't show you love growing up, you need to seek counseling, because just as you disturbed in that deep sense, your children going to be even more disturbed because they're growing up in a world even 10 times more crueler than it was when you come up. And they growing up with children, with parents that come from real disturbed places, because the later the generations got, the children start having children. And so if the children weren't taught, what the children going to teach the children? You just got a bunch of children running around together. So we have to be wise. That's the first step, to go seek help. Second step is, you know, you can pick the friends, pick and choose your friends. You can tell them, you know, well, Harry, just say Harry 10 years old. And he got a little friend named Larry. Harry loved cartoons and video games. But Larry smoked marijuana with his dad. You ain't going to let your baby go over there and hang out with him for him to feel like it's okay to do that? Yes, it's a herb, and yes, it's medicinal, but it ain't legalized. It ain't legalized. It's not legalized in the state of Alabama. I don't know where the rest of y'all at watching this, but I'm in Alabama. In Alabama, it ain't legalized. And even if you is in a state where it's legalized, I don't think your 10 or 11-year-old child need to be hanging out in a house with dope being smoked at all the time. Then when they go to school and the teacher call you and tell you, oh, your son got a joint in his book bag. Oh, you get there in front of the phone. I'm going to beat him down. I'm going to beat her down. What for what? This the environment you have allowed them to go into and to participate in and to be a part of, involve themselves in. Blame yourself. Sometimes you can't do something because, like I said, there's mental illness somewhere. Or simply because the child has been in a home where there's so much abuse. So much abuse. They ain't got no respect for you. They ain't got no respect for authority. They ain't got no respect for nobody, not even themselves. Because they weren't taught how to love themselves. They weren't taught how to love themselves. But why? Because you don't know and didn't know how to love yourself. And anything sound like education, and somebody tell you to go get you some help, or somebody tell you don't do it like this or do it like this, sound corny and stupid and crazy. You say that's the white folks stuff. Now, it's really black folks stuff. Because if you go back and do the history, the Moors, if you don't know a thing about the Moors, they civilized a lot of people. And you can figure out who the lot is later. Okay? Study Moors, the Moors, the Moors. Sometimes we don't know who we is, and we feel like we this, that, and the other because we don't know where we come from. Hey, there's a young man right now got a movie out called Moving Forward, Santo Moss. Y'all look for him and see if you can find that movie and see if you can learn where you come from. Learn a little bit about yourself. I think you'll find it be very interesting. You wasn't bombed. You wasn't field hands. You didn't come from that. You were brought to that. So the minute you discover who you are, you'll feel a whole lot better about who you're going to become. Okay, now let me go back to this. The next thing is mental illness. In the African American community, and I'm not just talking to African American, I'm talking to all people because I'm not pro anything. I'm pro life. I love life. I love life. I love people. Because one thing I understand, a snake is a snake and a dirty person is a dirty person regardless of the color they're in. The color they are and the race they come from. I want to say that. And I know a lot of people say, well, I'm pro this and I'm pro that. That's good. That's good. If your pro's going to help you be more proactive in our community, in love and kindness, in love and kindness. without any prejudice against one another, because there's a lot of prejudice even in the African American community. Oh, she light skinned, she'll get in the door for our will. Oh, he dark skinned. Oh, she this. Oh, she did. We need to cut that mess out and be educated. Once you become educated, you'll realize a lot of this stuff we've been doing is foolishness. Now let's go back to this. You need to get you some education on mental illness. You really do. Education on mental illness, because there's a lot of mental illness in the African American community. And I'm talking to the African Americans, and I'm also talking to other people, but particularly the African American, my people, because my people don't have a lot of them don't have the education they need in literature on these type of subjects, because a lot of people don't want to address them, they don't want to talk about them. And that's one thing I like about Brother Moss. He addressed a lot of things, and he don't address it from a racist point of view. He address it from a life point of view, a God sense of view. God bless him. God bless him. God bless him. And if he not these things I say and you find him to be different, pray him into it. Pray him into it. We're going to pray succeed. We're going to pray many more movies come out of it. We're going to pray we learn more about ourselves. Now, we can learn more. There's Ashley Wheat. There's Martin Glenn. There's several people in the community that talks about our black pride, about loving yourself, about empowerment, about getting rid of the slave mentality. Okay, well, where did mental illness stem from? Mental illness, and I always refer to science when I talk about stuff. Mental illness in the black community come from all that brutal stuff our ancestors dealt with before us. I say it again, from our ancestors, all that brutality they dealt with before us. They were beaten, they were raped, they were belittled, had their names and religion robbed away from them. And then they were just given a whole savage type of lifestyle or way of living. And they had to accept it, and it had to become the norm. Can you imagine having your name stripped away from you? You might have been Kunta or Kumbe, Quinte, whoever. You might have been one of those. And then you move to you be snatched and took to a place where they beat you and tell you can't use your name. A name you've been used to using all your life. A language you've been used to using all your life. Can you imagine the spiritual and mental warfare you're going to have to endure along the way with it? And as you endure that, and I don't know if a lot of y'all educated on this, but you need to go look it up. As you endure this abuse, it becomes a genetic marker. It starts to mark. It becomes a marker in your DNA. I looked at research on it. It marks your DNA, and as you know, as time go by, where we come from a strong stock, as they say, the stock become weak. You can't take what you used to take no more. Because your father, he was brutalized. He can't even stand to hear noise. Now he done had you. And you can't stand noise at all. You can't stand loud music. You're timid. You're shy. You're ashamed. You can't hold your head up and look people in the eye. That's abuse. Then it's a form of mental illness. Because how many of y'all know that anything affect you mentally, that's an illness. A lot of people think mental illness is you slobbing out the mouth and you got one hand crooked over. That's not mental illness. That's a physical disability. Mental illness is anything affects the mind. Anything affects the mind. You can have anxiety. That's a form of mental illness. Well, anyway, all this stuff been trickled down through our families, the African American community. And so now we think, okay, it get to the point where we all right, long as we can go to work, long as we can cook a few meals, long as we can fellowship and pop a little meat on the grill and pop a few cans every once in a while, and then we got the elite African American that somewhat feel like they done rose above the situation and circumstance because they got a few pieces of paper hanging on the wall. Some of them have, some of them have. My thing is, if you got all that paper hanging on the wall and you done rose above the situation and circumstance, what you doing for the people in the community to help them? What have you given back to your people that you see suffering? What you doing? Besides bragging about what you done obtained. What you doing? Where your love at for your people? Where your love at? Reach back and help somebody. You done crawled out the barrel with the crabs, as you say. Some of you say that. Yeah, they say it. Reach back and help people. Mentor a child. Mentor a family. Help somebody. Pass out literature in your community, in your church about mental illness in the African American community. They have it. They have it. Well, anyway, I said all that to say this. Some of our children suffer from mental illness. And I think that if we get the help our children need, we'll find out that our children, and a lot of it is genetics. Genetics because it's been passed down. We'll find out that our children are learning to maintain things, and they don't have to be put on drugs. They don't have to be put on drugs. There's therapy. There's naturopathic things you can do to help a child, such as you can put lavender, get infusion lamp that infuse where you oil burner and put lavender oil in it and burn it in the house. It calms the child. Put it in the bedroom. It calms the child. You can take away the sweets, and you can introduce more green stuff like kale and different stuff like that into their diet. You'll realize that diet have everything to do with it. My friend a couple of days ago sent me a clip on Facebook Messenger talking about the African diet before coming to America and how they were so much stronger and how they were so much in tune with nature and the cosmos. But once they got over here through the slave trade, they sense of discernment got dim fog because of the diet. We were not meant to eat all this stuff we be eating. This sugar, all this modified food, all of this, all of that. We don't need that. And salt, black people, the leading cause of death is diabetes and high blood pressure. It's in our community. Why? We eat a lot of salt. We don't need salt. We the salt of the earth, baby. We don't need salt. We the salt of the earth. Read your Bible. That melanin is the salt of the earth. He said in the beginning, it was void. What the void is, that's the darkness. That's the melanin in your blood. That's the melanin in you before he said, let there be light. You are the salt of the earth. You don't need salt. You don't need that salt, and you don't need no sugar. Eat these natural fruits and stuff, and you'll find that if you introduce that to your children, they'll do so much better. They'll do so much better. Change the diet. Try all of that before medication. Try the like I say, the lavender oil in your oil burner. Put it in the house to keep it calm. Change your music. If you got rap music playing for your children, yeah, sure, they gonna want to be rowdy. They want to get with it and do them things. And because that music make you feel like you can do some things. Y'all know music is powerful. Very powerful. And then you know what? One more thing I found to be very good is this stuff right here. This right here. It's an organic juice in the place of drinks. Try giving your children that, because I noticed when I was giving my daughter sodas, she was wide open. But I started giving her this. I started doing some research. This alone changed her behavior because it's organic. It got apples, carrots, beets, bananas, and pineapples, and lemon juice, lemons, and turmeric in it. Turmeric is powerful too. So I'm not promoting any company, but I'm just trying to show you it's things we can use, alternative methods we can use for our children the substitute, and it's real sweet too. It tastes real good. It tastes good, naturally sweet. We try some of that, and things, the diet and everything, things will probably turn out a little bit better for them. Just look for natural ways, to work on the mind, the state of mind and everything. Like I say, the natural oils, and I ain't talking about give them no herbs, because if I say herbs, you're going to mess around and give them a joint. I ain't talking about no herbs. You just stick with the naturopathic diets, the natural way. Stick with that. And if your child have a bad form of mental illness, yeah, you need some medication. And I suggest you do research on the doctor you take them to before you take them for the medication. I think that you need to spend some money. In the form of health care you get for that mental illness. And I realize a lot of children have Medicaid or whatever. You might need to pay a little bit more money than the Medicaid, because Medicaid going to give you the bare minimum. You need to put some money into your child's mental state. And I'm not putting down the system, because the system is designed to help people that don't have any help at all. I'm thankful for it. Very thankful. Because I got welfare. I got Medicaid, a lot of things when I was in a situation where I couldn't do nothing for myself. And I thank God that program was in place for me to get the help I need. A lot of times we be ashamed to say we got that kind of help. Let me tell you something. It's bad when you can't get no help. You're sick and you can't get no medicine. At least that little bit of something is in place. It's a blessing to many people. A lot of people might, well, I got Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, that's good. You got it. But somebody they don't have it. Somebody don't even have Medicaid. We need to be thankful for the stuff we do have. But I said that to say this, that we need to invest more money in mental illness than we do anything else, because so many people, they being killed. Our children go to jail. They go to school. Not my children. I rebuke it in the name of Jesus. And I rebuke it off any children. I'll say children in the past. Children in the past. Because the children from here on, from the parents that listen to me now, we're gonna work on this together. Not just you and not just me. We're going to do it together. From time to time, I'm going to have some literature on here to help out and tell you where you can find the best care for mental illness. Because I've had it to attack my home. That's why I know. Well, I'll see if I can do more research on doctors that's in our area, if not our area, in the Birmingham area, that can help us to, be more aware of treatments and therapy for our children. But I'm not, like I said, I noticed in the past where children that had a form of mental illness was often deemed as being bad children, when all the time they had a mental condition where if they got the help they needed, they wouldn't have went to jail. Some of them been killed. Some of them been labeled for life, simply because the family wasn't educated on mental illness in the black community. Not just the black, other communities as well. But I'm trying to focus on the African American community because it's so bad in our community. So bad in our community. So bad. And people want to close their eyes and shut their mouth, hold their head down, and turn a deaf eye to it and a deaf ear to it like it don't exist, and it do. These issues have to be addressed. Some of these folks that step around here, high step and think they clean cut and got it all and got their way made, they got a form of mental illness. Somebody might be sitting thinking I got one. I might do, but I bet you one thing, I'm going to seek the help I need. I bet you that. Mama Shan going to work on Shan. Yes, I am. That's why I'm talking to you. I had it strike my home. And I'm not too proud to tell y'all that. I'm tell you the truth. It is genetically induced into the African American community from slavery, from the abuse our ancestors suffered in mentally and physically. It become a genetic marker. Well, we didn't discuss the mental. We didn't discuss the home environment and the environment the children go into. Another thing we need to discuss is parents. When you getting other people over your children, step parents and different stuff like that, you need to think about if these people have your child's best interests at hand, or if they even concerned about what's going on with your child. Sure, a lot of them will pretend to love you in your face and in your presence, but behind your back they mistreat your children. Check these people out before you put them in your home, because a lot of times your children are able to tell you just by being in the presence of a person if they gonna fit. Yes, I'm sure a lot of kids don't want the parents to have nobody. I'm sure, especially if they've been with you a long time by themselves, if you're not in a marriage and in a stable home already. I'm sure they won't want nobody to come in and try to interrupt the comfort zone if they have one at all. Sometimes a step parent can come in and make it better. It all depends on the person. Pay attention to your children. Another thing, too many children being sexually abused by step parents, boyfriends, visitors coming in the home. Be aware who coming in your house. I don't care if your boyfriend do got homeboys. I don't care if your husband do got homeboys. Your husband need to know he don't need to have no men hanging around your house when you got little children out in the yard drinking, in and out the house, you having a party. One of my associates I met years ago, he's a gay man and I love him. I asked him, out of ignorance, how did you become gay? He said, well, my mama used to sell beer, and she would have parties from time to time. And her boyfriend had a friend that came and spent the night one night. They all had been drinking and had cookout and everything. So he came and got in the bed with me. And my mama went to holler, y'all quit that horse playing, quit playing in there and go to bed. Quit playing with that boy and let him go to sleep. What a man was raping the child. The mama and the stepdaddy was intoxicated. They weren't thinking what was going on. And he would spend the night with them weekend after weekend, and this would be going on, Next thing they know, they got a son that's switching and twitching. Why? His manhood been taken away from him, been robbed. Same way about this thing can not just happen to him. It can happen to your son. It can happen to your grandson. Anybody. I'm very protective of my family. I don't even trust family members. Some family members, I don't trust them. Why? Because the devil can get in anybody. The devil can get in anybody and make them do. When they go to drinking alcohol and smoking that stuff and popping pills, rolling molly, whatever y'all want to call it. Yak, syrup, whatever y'all want to fix that stuff up and call it. People will do anything. And then you got some dirty, low-down dogs that don't have to have nothing that they still bother a child. Y'all be more careful about who you let in your house and in your environment around your children. Because sexual abuse can mess a child up and mix them up the rest of their life. Be mindful of that. And I don't know if y'all know, but it's something about a parent's love. Kids can have the worst parent in the world, and they do everything they can to try to win their love. Y'all do better at being, and this ain't for everybody. This ain't for everybody, because I realize there's some brilliant parents in the African American community. I realize that, but don't just be brilliant to your children. Be brilliant to somebody else. If it ain't nothing but just, if a child's birthday, tell them I'm going to bring some cupcakes, You don't have to get them and put them in your home. If you're scared they're going to contaminate, that's the way it said, contaminate, going to spoil your child. It's the little things you do that count to introduce a different way of life. I remember when I was a little girl, I can remember having one birthday party. I was 17 years old. But I remember growing up, my friends would have birthday parties. And I had this one friend, her mother, she did all kinds of good things for them. Bought them all kinds of stuff. I thought material stuff was love back then. Bought them all kinds of stuff, and she would participate in the events in their life. She would go to the PTA meetings with them and for them, and she would be at all the teacher-parent meetings. And when we had parties at school, she would make cupcakes and that was my first time knowing anything about red velvet cake. She made a red velvet cake for our Christmas party. I think I was in like the 6th grade, 5th or 6th grade. And I can remember saying, when I grow up, I want to be a parent just like her. She was one of the people that shaped my life, and she didn't even know. She passed away when I got to be grown, but she didn't even know the influence she placed on my life. And I was just in the 5th or 6th grade. You don't never know what you do for a person, what you do for a child. The people around your children shape their environment, mold their destiny. And another thing, quit giving y'all kids these names and you don't even know the meaning of them. You done made them up. You done put them together. Y'all do research on your children's name because names have destiny. They determine what your life going to be like. Not only that, there's a spiritual, you know when a woman have a baby, the navel cord is there. They have to cut that navel cord away from the baby to separate the mother and the child. Well, when they cut that navel cord, that's in the natural. But there's a spiritual cord. If you don't believe, you might have to do some deeper research than what you've been taught. There's a spiritual cord, and it's been proven, that a child have with their parents. And it's very important that children bond with their parents. Because if you don't know, it's like medicine to the soul. Can you imagine being away from your mother if you have a loving mother and you going through something, or if your day going bad? You just want to get to your mama and talk to her. You ain't even got to talk to her, just be in her presence. Why? Because that supernatural connection, that spiritual cord you have, the mother have between the child and the father having the child. I remember when I was being taught about spirituality, I was put in a room where a young lady, she didn't know who the father of a child was. And she was ashamed to go to the courts. So what they did, this old lady in the neighborhood that we knew, they gathered all the gifted people together. And they placed them in a room while this young lady put the child down. The old lady that was teaching us the spiritual connection between a man, woman, and a child and a parent, told the young lady, put the child down. She put the child down, and the child going to go to the father. She put the child down. The child instantly go to the man. Why? And the lady explains to us. There was a supernatural connection. Just like the umbilical cord is the cord in the natural, there's a spiritual cord between parents that cannot be cut or denied. Y'all remember this? So later on, there was some confusion. They go back, and I would call the name, but I don't want to be in no mess. I don't need no mess. But I'm sure one day I'll get a chance to get her on this show because she's a very spiritual being, and she don't mind sharing. She's an open person. But I want to make sure I have her permission in her presence, or even let her do something. Well, anyway, they go on because of confusion in the family and get a DNA test on the child. As the old lady said, the child that got down and went to the man, that was the man's child. Well, I said all this to say this, that spiritual things matter. I said before, you could be the worst parent in the world and a child will seek to try to please you. Why don't y'all be the best parent in the world? Try to be the best parent in the world and give the care and love that you can give them. I'm telling y'all this because I was educated on this stuff and still being educated on this stuff. And yes, I was fortunate enough to be raised in a spiritual community. My grandmother was a healer. I was fortunate enough to be raised around wise people. My father's very wise, very, very wise, very wise, very wise. I love that old man. My mother's wise. I love that old lady. That's my mama. That's my daddy. I love them. Old folks can tell you things that been lost along the way. Information that our ancestors had that we no longer think count. But as time go by, we having to go back and grab that information in order to live our lives with harmony. Listen, y'all. I'm only sharing this with you because I love you. And I love me. And I love my community. I love people. I don't care what color they are. Because like I say, low down have no color. Evil have no color. And a snake is a snake. Yes, it is. A snake is a snake. A snake is a snake. Whether it's black, white, blue, or green. I think we went through that in the last video. There are many kinds of snakes. And I called out maybe like 5 or 6 snakes. And them 5 or 6 snakes can represent 5 or 6 different races. But the name they call the snake was different. But the mentality and the things still remain the same. They were still snakes. So it didn't matter whether they were green, black, blue, or brown. A snake is a snake. Okay, y'all, let's get that down and remember that. And I know our families and ancestors have been treated real bad. But now we're being treated bad by one another. That's another show. That's another show. Another show. Let us love each other, because, see, we got some people in our community right now tricking and trading among our own community worse than the white man did. So let us get this thing together. Let us get this thing together. Because we do harm to each other. First, we got to straighten out ourselves internally. We got to fix the inside before the outside gets fixed. I say it all the time. Everybody want to fix the outside, but who want to deal with the inside job? Nobody. They want to fool people like everything all good, dress up in a few nice clothes, put you on a clean white button-down shirt, some slack pants, and some shiny shoes, or put you on a pretty dress and some heels, and buy you a wig, or even do the hair you already got. Throw you on some lipstick, eyeshadow, and you to fool somebody. It take more than that. Because you can carry the charade on for so long, you're still going to lose that charade. And the real you going to come out. Take the mask off. Take the mask off and deal with yourself. Deal with our community. Let's deal with each other. I'm dealing with me. I'm working on me. I'm working on my household. And I want everybody else to work on theirs. Well, y'all, I got to go. I done been on here a little longer than I planned. I love y'all. And I know today is Sunday. And, you know, tomorrow, if we live to see it, is another work day and a school day. And if you don't work, it's another day to work inside your home.